Hi, I'm Dr. Gwen. I'm a neurotypical psychologist who empowers neurodiverse and disabled individuals, their families, and their support systems. I'm a fan of collecting and curating useful tools, challenging unhelpful mindsets, and encouraging positive actions that I've professionally found to benefit this awesome community. If this is something you're interested in, please consider subscribing to my channel. In this episode, I interview Portia James, founder of Behavior Genius. We talk about our social skills program and the necessity of creating social spaces where neurodivergent individuals are accepted and comfortable. We also chat about how she's disrupting the behavior scene with thoughtfulness, creativity, relationship, and by being unconventional. We end our interview with the need to allow our clients to be who they are and not who they should or could be, that our clients don't need to be fixed, but seen and heard. If you're wondering what a social skills group is and what a good one looks like, keep listening to find out. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to welcome Portia James, founder of Behavior Genius. Hi, Portia. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for asking. I'm doing great. I'm really excited that you agreed to do this. So thank you for being here. Before we get started though, Portia, why don't you let the audience know who you are?
Yeah, I am a mother first. I have 3 children. I'm a wife, and I'm the founder of Behavior Genius. I've been in the field of ABA for 17 years, and so I'm always in the Inland Empire. And so I just kind of worked up through the ranks. And in a nutshell, those are pretty much the things that touch my day over the course of the day. Those are the things I wear every day.
Yeah. Hey, Portia, what prompted you to start your own company?
Ooh, um, honestly, I've been in the field in the same area for 17 years. And so a lot of my kids that I assessed, at 3, 4, 5 years old, they grew up. And so I have one particular uh, child who I have worked with since he was 3 years old. He'll actually be 19 tomorrow. And his mom and I talked a lot about the in-between space. So we talked about those kids that are, they don't really fit in anywhere that they are. They don't fit in gen ed. They don't really fit in special ed. They're kind of those outliers, right? That need something and nobody really can put their finger on what it is. And so we talked for years and years of his life about creating a space. And so I had an opportunity to leave a corporate role where I was serving as director of clinical operations for the entire nation, and had the opportunity to kind of think about what I wanted to do with that. And so I decided that I wanted to build a social space for kids like him, specifically kids like him. And so he was my first kid there. He was there on his birthday is when we launched, and we just kind of been rolling ever since. So that's sort of helping, the kids who are sort of in between, those transitional kids, those misfits. I felt like I was kind of a misfit. And so I always identified with those kids that didn't really feel that they had a place to belong. And so that's sort of what sparked the idea for Behavior Genius, and more specifically for our social group, Social IQ.
Yeah, and I love spell social IQ for everybody, because that's
Oh,
that's the genius part of that.
yeah, this is what I do late at night. I love words, wordplay. I'm a writer. It's SOCIAL, like social, and then IQ, ICUE, like social cue.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool. Off air, Portia, you and I were talking about kind of the marred past and history of ABA.
Yeah.
You and I both having come from those disciplines, and I think creating a new space for it, because we're listening. Like, we're listening to autistic adults and autistics about their experiences. And we're talking a little bit off air about how to create those spaces that are filled with dignity, and respect,
Yeah.
and voice So I love that you are talking about creating social spaces, creating places of belonging. It's just so wonderful.
Thank
Let's
you.
let's back up, because I think for some, they may not know what like social skills training is, like social groups or social skills training is another way. What is it? Like, what is this type of intervention?
Sure. Yeah. So full transparency, I've never, prior to Behavior Genius, I never worked in a social skills group. I never got a chance to see one operate. I've only ever heard horror stories. And I had parents that would come and be like, "Do you guys offer social skills groups?" Because I went to where down the street and I had this horrible experience. It wasn't what I was looking for, or there was a long wait list. We can't get in, right? And where I've ever worked, we didn't have it. We didn't even have somewhere to even redirect these parents to. So I realized that there is a need. Behavior Genius Social Skills Group is what I would say is probably a little unconventional, non-traditional, from what I've heard about. So typically your social skills group, the purpose is to get children who, have similar needs into a space where social skills are taught, normally in a format that switches back and forth between structured and unstructured. So maybe there's some instructional learning on a topic, some practice, and then there's like playtime, right? Or free time for the skills to be practiced. And so that's what I would imagine. Again, I've never observed a social skills group, but that's kind of what I've heard that they are like. And so at Behavior Genius, they're pretty similar to that. We have 2 days that are instructional days each week, where we follow a curriculum, either the social skills intervention system, the SSIS, or the peers, depending on the age of the child. And we kind of follow through. Those are curriculum based. So they're very clear. They're very similar, actually. And we're able to kind of sit down with kids in a round table type setting and teach them. Maybe this week's topic is about asking for help, or it's about introducing yourself to a new friend. And so we talk about, when should you ask for help? When maybe shouldn't you ask for help? What are some reasons or some scenarios that you might be in where you may ask for help? And the kids get to really talk about that. They get to share. I'm really humbled every time I get to be involved, because these kids really, they have responses. They have experiences that they share in these settings that blow me away sometimes, because I'm like, they get it. Like, I'm looking at them and I'm not sure if they are following, and they get it. And so we do have that, that conversational type of, we call it more, it's more of a instructional day. You learn about this skill, right? Well, then we have the other 2 days of the week, alternating days. We have activity days. So generalization days is what we call them. And the specific purpose of these days is to take everything that we talked about this week in our instructional time and actually use that. Put it into action, practice it. And so kids are either paired. Usually they're in group with one adult and 3 other kids. But there are some opportunities where they just kind of wander around, they mix and mingle, they have their own relationships. Of course, for some of it, the boys are with the boys, or the older ones are with the older ones, and the girls are with the girls, and they kind of start to branch off, and you see these friendships occurring. And we let them be as organic as they can be. And we just kind of guide, we steer the conversations, we ask questions maybe to spark opportunities for, for practice of the skills that we're learning. And I think what makes Behavior Genius especially unique is that we also generalize outside of the office setting. So we do have a treatment center, 2 treatment centers where we host social skills group in clinic. But a couple things we do that are a little more toward the generalization side. The purpose, the intention is generalization, true generalization, like not practice it over here on this side of the room of the same clinic with another kid, right? That's one thing. But we also we host birthday parties. We host graduations. like graduations from school. And we have real birthday parties. Like we send invitations, we bring gifts, we have carnival games. I mean, some of these kids we realized have never really been to a birthday party, or they have, but their friends from school have never attended, And so we're like, these are your friends. These are your peers. Everyone pick out a gift that matches your friend, that your friend may like. And we do the whole thing. We do the whole party. We eat pizza and we have cupcakes. And we do the whole opening the gifts. We sing happy birthday. And then we go out once a month. And during our once a month field trip, we do fun field trips where we may go to, let's say we may go to like an indoor trampoline park and just let them just like run and do whatever kids do at the indoor trampoline park. All of that, those are social opportunities, right? There's kids there that they know. There's kids they don't know. They have boundaries they have to stay inside of. And they practice the same skills that we started off working on in this instructional way. And we really generalize it all the way out through the end. Sometimes that outing is like a trip to Target, and we're teaching them how to shop, how to pay for what they want, how to pick out a new backpack. So backpacks are coming up at the end of the summer again. And it was really cute. Last year was the first time we bought backpacks, and a lot of the kids bought matching backpacks with their best friend, or matching little lunch pails that they were able to buy when we went. So it's really just, we create the opportunities to integrate what we're learning and be able to find opportunities in the actual community, like outside where everybody is, right? Where everybody has a place. And we make space to be able to work on those things in that setting as well. I think that's probably my favorite part about what we do.
Yeah. I mean, I love the creation of space. I think creation of space and the thoughtful provision of opportunities is critical in the development of like natural social skills.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's, the combination of like instruction, right? And then the generalization is so
Mm-hmm.
lovely. Portia, we were just talking about, ABA's background.
Yeah.
And in so many ways, as you're describing your social skills groups, it's really not so rigid.
Rigid. Yeah. Yeah. That's my least favorite way to work. So it's
Yeah.
by design. By design, it's very non-rigid.
It's
Yeah.
non-rigid and flexible. Portia,
Yeah.
how do you, when you have social skills groups, you have a combination of personalities and dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got different people in it. How do you, let's say, how do you help someone maintain their unique voice
Yeah.
within the context of your structure or the context of the curriculum? Because that's something that I'm really just wanting to protect these days, like protecting identities, protecting voices, giving a space for voices to be amplified. Yet we're also trying to teach you social skills so that you can have relationships and connections. You can be in your community. Like there's a balance to this,
Yeah.
not that there's an answer for this, but how do you approach that balance of keeping
Yeah.
someone's uniqueness and not squashing who they are and not saying this is the way you should behave? You know what I mean? How do you maintain that?
I think that's a great question. I think this is actually something that we're really good at. I cannot take credit. We provide the space, right? We create the space. It's designed for everyone. And our goal at Social IQ from day one was never to change these kids. It's never to change who they were. More so, it was to provide a space where they could be who they are. So, things I've struggled with throughout my career is like, being in situations where people want to force a child to be with or play with or experience social, the social pressures that they will face with typically, neurotypical children. And I've always kind of just disrupted that thought process because I felt like every single one of us as humans, we gravitate toward people who are like us,
Mm-hmm.
we share similarities with, who we have things in common, right? And so these kids start out where they have autism in common, or but there's so many other things that they have in common. These kids, the reason I say I can't take credit is because they create the space. They really are the ones who we give them boundaries that everyone should have, right? So this is how to demonstrate kindness. This behavior is unkind, and may not be accepted by another person. But we actually don't rush to stop the stimming because the other kids welcome it. And just they welcome it. You know, that
Yay!
kid who calls out in class or who overtalks everyone, or the kids work it out themselves. So there are some kids who maybe won't exchange a greeting, and their friend will be like, "Hey, say bye." And they'll be like, "Oh, bye, Miss Portia," you know, and they leave. We don't actually force whatever we think they should be onto them. And the beautiful thing, probably the most beautiful thing about these kids, I could cry, is that there's true acceptance in this group. And that acceptance, what you realize is that non-acceptance really comes from other groups. You know, maybe it comes from the adult.
Yep.
Maybe it comes from those neurotypical kids at
Yep.
their schools. And these kids, they have cried together. They have told stories about how they've been treated. Um, Other groups that they have been in, or just at school, or maybe their siblings don't understand, or, you know, they feel that misunderstood by someone, right? And so this place, it's incredible because these kids, they know each other's goals. They know each other's targets. They help each other through them. But I believe truly in my heart that we have buy-in. And I think the reason we have buy-in with our kids, not necessarily with our families, we love our families, but our goal is that kids come not because they're required and it's another therapy, but that they look forward to coming in. The only time I know for me, one thing the pandemic taught me is if I have to wear a mask, I'm not going, right? So these kids get to come and be completely unmasked. And they still, of course, we have boundaries. We have things that we're teaching them: how to ask for help, how to be polite, how to navigate the community independently, how to speak to people, you know, how to have a conversation. But we then allow the kids to give each other the grace that I don't think that they get from other spaces. And
Mm-hmm.
they really create that environment for themselves. And we just give them we allow it, you know, we allow them, we stand back and we allow them to create a space that they feel like they belong in. And the goal isn't to transition them to somewhere where there's other typical kids and now they can fit in, right?
Right.
The goal is that they find where they fit in and that's where they thrive. And that's it.
Yep.
Maybe
Yep.
that's just where it ends, right? That's where it ends for us. And
Yep.
so that's kind of the premise behind, that's the intention behind the program.
Yeah. That's fantastic. That's so fantastic.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, there's so much there that I just I want to piece apart. You know, belonging is critical. Belonging
Yeah.
is a critical human need. And feeling a sense of belonging is critical. And I'm really careful as a neurotypical person, who's in the neurodiverse space. I am, I really try to stay humble and open to what, like, my clients are telling me, what I'm observing and reading, and wanting to find out what those perspectives are so that I'm not like unintentionally ableist, you know, like,
Uh,
how do I, and I'm learning a lot. I mean, I use the words neurodivergent, neurodiverse, um, you know,
yeah.
incorrectly all the time.
All the
It's still
time.
like my mind is still like Gwen, you know, I'm still trying to work on that, but I'm just trying to be
Yeah.
better. I'm just trying to be better, you know, as I work in this space. But Portia, how is the curriculum? We're talking about different personalities. How is the curriculum different for younger children than it is for young adults? You have a specific young adult, and selfishly, because I work with young adults primarily, I'm curious about how the curriculum or how the feel or the vibe is different for like children versus young adults.
Yeah. Okay. So for children, it's completely play based. I mean, they're just having a good time. I mean, we're in there, turn off all the lights, playing laser tag, right? So you know, and we have kids at all different varying age levels. And to be completely honest, everybody enjoys laser tag at every age. So we have these, you know, opportunities where, you know, we take the curriculum that we have and we tailor it. not only do we tailor it for the age, but sometimes we also have to tailor it for the person's individual needs. The ABA, the number one main premise of ABA is individualization, right? And so that's really the foundational in ABA. And so it's tough. It's a lot more difficult in a group to make sure that each child is getting individualized care or support. But one way that we do this is we break the kids down into groups by age. And so we take the same curriculum, let's say the SSIS, right, for the kids. And that's for everybody under the age of like 17. And so we take that, and it starts from age 5 all the way up to age 17. And but we have we tailor it for, so we might have the same day we're talking about, again, asking for help, getting help when you need it. And we have the curriculum. But another thing that we do is we don't just go over the curriculum. We also have, we break them up into groups by age. And then we have this Ninja series by Mary Hinn. I think it's Hinn is the way you'd pronounce her last name. Her books are, I came across them totally by accident. And it's the Ninja Life Hack series. They're on Amazon. Very, very cool books, but they're all about all these different social skills. They're about feelings, emotions. So it'll be like kind ninja, right? Helpful ninja. So maybe if we're talking about asking for help, we read Helpful Ninja. Helpful Ninja appeals to a 5-year-old. My son is 3. He loves them. But also to the 17-year-old who can kind of relate to the story. There's a conflict in each story. It's pretty brief, but there's like a conflict and then there's a solution. And this superhero ninja comes and turns their attitude around essentially and creates a solution for themselves in these different social situations. And I think because we split them up, it gives us the opportunity. We have certain worksheets that we do that are for the, a version for the little kids, a version for the older kids. We have art class. There's one for the younger kids, one for the older. Kickboxing. We do it for all ages, but we split the kids up so that the way that we convey the content, we can just make it relevant to the group, to the not just the age group, but, we may have 17-year-olds, but maybe they're kind of meshing more around like 13, 12. Really, it's to them, right? To their group. We're allowing them to spark the conversations. And so, yeah, those conversations are very different for the 5-year-olds. And the attention span is very different, for them than it is for the older 16, 17 high school kids. For the adults, we actually use the Peers curriculum. And it's very similar. The adult class is, it's a lot more, grown up. It's a lot more technical. So it's still conversational. We still have the instruction portion where we're discussing a topic. We kind of walk and talk them through. There's a lot more parent involvement. So the Peers program actually requires the parent to be more of like a support person, parent support, social support partner, right? And so the parent is a lot more involved, and the goal is to teach the parent to help the child to generalize those skills when they leave, social skills, find opportunities in the community to allow them to practice these skills, although they have their own field trip. So our young adults have their own trip. So we really just we split apart our groups. We have about 50 kids in our social group across our 2 locations. And we really just, we split the groups up by age and the rest, and then we just tailor everything that we're discussing. And sometimes it doesn't align because you just don't want to be talking to 5-year-olds about the same thing you're talking about 15-year-olds. Yeah. Talking to 15-year-olds about. So we'll switch it. We'll say, all right, well, littles, they call them littles and bigs. And so we'll say, all right, littles, this is their lesson plan. We have whole entire lesson plans, books we're going to read, worksheets we're going to do, projects we're going to make, and then some movement activity, right? And we'll just make it kinder friendly for this group. And then we'll do the exact same thing, but we'll make it high school friendly. And the high school kids, most of them are boys, autism is still much more likely in boys, and they're throwing, balling up their papers and throwing them across the room, and they're having much more mature conversations. And we go with them on that journey too, and make sure that they understand what it means for them at their age and at their time. So I think it's just being flexible. Mm-hmm. I think it's the flexibility that helps us to be able to navigate different age groups.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I love that. It's like very developmentally appropriate. You're meeting them developmentally where they are, maybe not chronologically, but developmentally where they are. So that's great. Portia, your social skills groups, how are they funded? And for the audience, we're in California, so I just want to make that caveat. But how are your social skills groups usually funded?
Primarily insurance. So insurance does pay for social skills group. There's a special code for ABA related social skills group. So our primary funder is IHP. We do have a few parents who have paid out of pocket, private pay, but mostly insurance is covering it. And right now, insurance is also covering it for most of our adults as well. And so our adults range anywhere from age 18 to 24, young adult program. And right now, insurance is covering that for them. I think, it's so new for us. We just launched our adult program this year, April 1st. And so it'll be interesting as our kids, as we do get, because we're starting to get adult referrals. None of them are over 24 yet. All of them are still under the IH. They're covered, right? They can receive ABA services under their insurance company. We haven't really needed to navigate yet the space where maybe we get adults that are not covered by their insurance, and where would that funding come from? We do have relationships with regional centers and things like that now. We have an adult residential program, and so in that program we are in communication and contact with regional centers, but we just haven't crossed that bridge yet for our social group. But insurance does cover this as medically necessary.
Fantastic. That's great to know. Hey, Portia, I like to ask guests these kind of thought-based questions. So maybe you can go along on the journey with me. What is one thing you wish that everyone knew?
I would say, gosh, I feel like there's so many things and then there's nothing. Honestly, what I wish people knew was that the importance, like the magnitude on a person, on an individual, who may be struggling, may not be struggling. Maybe they're fine, right? We're struggling. We're the ones struggling with whatever it is that they're going through, right? But I wish people took the time to know their heart. One thing about being in the field since I was a kid, I grew up in this field, since I was in college. And what I loved most, and I still love, is just being with people who are different and diverse, and hearing what they're saying between the lines, hearing how they're feeling, hearing their inner voice, understanding who they are, who they want to be. I think in this field, there's a lot of who they should be, who they could be potentially, right? Who they used to be and who they are now, how we're going to fix them. And I just, I think what gives me joy is like leaving people right where they are and not feeling the need to fix them. And, hearing from them how that makes them feel, who they are, what they want, what they need. And so I wish people just took the time and had the patience and took on the perspective of the other person in any situation. We should do that in any situation.
Yeah.
But especially for, neurodivergent population, any population, but especially this one, I think the voice is so trampled over. It's forgotten. It's ignored. It's deemed irrelevant, as if they can't think for themselves. They can't want things for themselves. And so, have always had fun finding the commonality between myself and people who think different, and so being with these kids who they think a certain thought, and I'm like, you know what? I've had that same thought. I feel, sometimes it's like, I'm like, hey, good morning. And I'm sunshine. And they're like, it's not a good morning. I hate morning or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? I don't like it either, but I'm really not a morning person, but I think it's just that like reality of people's right to think and feel for themselves. And I think if we take the time to find the commonality, we would understand a whole nother world. And for me, it's changed my life. I've done this job since before I knew who I was, before I had children, before I was a wife. And I think that just slowing down from the fixing and really taking the time to listen and to see people for who they are has, really changed my life. It's changed how I see myself, how I see others. And so I think extending past acceptance or tolerance, right? And really having just compassion, like genuine, uh, what's the word? Genuine, like, I genuinely like these kids. Like,
Yeah.
I really like them. I like them,
Yeah.
and I like when they like me back. And I
Yeah.
think it's about relationship. And I wish people knew how cool it is to be in relationship with people that are just different in this specific way, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um, that if I could sum it up, I don't know if that's a good answer, but I think that.
All answers are good, Portia, and that was beautiful. That was beautifully put. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Hey, Portia, if someone's listening to this and they're like, I want to know more about behavior genius, or wait, I live in the Inland Empire. Wait, I didn't know that people. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Ooh, this is like hot wings when they have like your 15 seconds or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yes, this is your elevator pitch. Go.
Yeah, yes, yes. All right. So Behavior Genius is online at behaviorgenius.com. We post a lot on Instagram at Behavior Genius, just like that. Nobody else has our name. So you can really search Behavior Genius in a Google bar. You're going to find nothing but us. We have 2 treatment centers. Our first one, largest one, is in Ontario. And we also opened a treatment center last year and launched social skills group up there this January in Hesperia as well. So a lot of parents don't know we're in Hesperia. If you're in the high desert area, we do service that area. We service in-home and center-based for both areas, and social IQ is in the building in both areas.
Love it. Portia, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, this was beautiful. It's amazing. It's always exciting to, get in. Everyone does it. Everyone kind of knows what I do, but every now and then someone stops and goes, "Hey, can you talk to me more about that?" And I love it. It fills me up every time. So I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Portia.